Welcome, everyone. We're back with a really exciting interview today on essential oils, which I love. And the presenter is someone I've known like for 3 decades. And she was, way back then, I was doing feng shui consultations in Bakersfield. And she hired me and she had this essential oil line. And none of these people who have essential oil lines, even knew about it yet. So she was really back there a pioneer on all of it. And then I remember the thing was that she went to France to get her lavender at this lavender farm, fell in love with the owner, and now she's married to him and they live like France and Bakersfield, right?
Yeah.
They have homes in both of it.
Yeah.
So, and then she's done skin product lines. She's really into doing everything organic. She's got a school she'll tell us about. So her name is Lorrie Hargis. So welcome, Lorrie, back from the past.
Yes, and thank you so much for inviting me. It was great to get your invitation.
Okay.
Come on with you. And like I was telling you, wow, my daughter and I were just talking about you saying, oh, Carol came. Remember when she came and did feng shui at our house and how she told us this room, had been burned before, and it had. And, it was just so right on.
What I remember is you were living on that farm outside of Bakersfield, and it had a T-junction. There was this busy street and then there was a street coming straight at it. And I said, well, this is in the top 5 of bad feng shui things because of the T-junction. So then I came back in 2 days. A car had crashed through the fence right up to the house. It was so amazing. And so that was pre, now with the cell phones, it would have all been recorded for posterity, but there's not a picture of it anywhere.
Yes, but you're so right. It came right through. And what was interesting that same night was I was on the phone with my editor, and she calls me and she says, Lorrie, my boyfriend has kidney stones. And no more did she say that, then I hear this crash through the front fence.
Hi.
And we're like, oh my gosh. So we go out there and we handle the crash deal, and I call her back and she's saying, is there anything that he could use for these kidney stones, and what he could do, with essential oils. And so it always seemed to happen like that in that house. Is you'd have one thing and then you'd have another thing. And
but
usually
this was a lot for one day. Oh, God.
Yeah. But it always usually came in 3s. And I think that's interesting that you said, it was in this kind of figure 8 configuration.
Exactly.
And so it's much better now where I live. I don't have that.
I saw pictures like lavender fields, and it was so beautiful.
It is.
Where is it located in France?
We're located in the south of France. We're located in the Aude, which is, we're 45 minutes south of Carcassonne, La City. And if you ever go to Toulouse, they have a major airport there. We're 1 hour and 45 minutes from Toulouse Airport.
Wow, great location.
Yeah, and we're just it's not quite 2 hours to Perpignan, which is south of us, which is on the Med. So we can be in the mountains, we can be in the Pyrenees Mountains in about 2 hours, and you can be on the Med in about 1 hour and 45 minutes. Wow. So it's a good location.
Yeah.
But it's special too.
Right. No, and so do you just grow lavender or other?
On the farm there is sage, thyme, lavender. There's also Helichrysum now. That's a new plant.
I love Helichrysum. Like David Crow, who I took some classes with a few years ago, 2-3 years ago. He was really into the Helichrysum. But it's so expensive.
Yes. And my husband and I, we would go to Corsica because that's where a majority of Helichrysum comes from. I mean, of course, it comes from Italy too, and other parts of France. And a lot of people now in France are growing more of it because it, became we call it the gold
Mhm.
you know, this beautiful gold flower, and it's so anti-inflammatory, works on the microcirculation of the body, and also helps with shock and trauma.
Mm.
So this is one of the reasons people love it so much, especially, you know, I mean, from skin care to wound care.
Mhm.
It's just a wonderful plant. And the smell of it when you put it in perfume, oh, wow. You know, you've got this honey, dry flower aspect to it. And when you put it in a perfume, like with jasmine and rose and sandalwood and ylang ylang, you just a small amount, you get this honey aspect with
Mm.
that rose and jasmine. It just pops those flowers up out of that perfume, you know. So I had a lot of fun with Helichrysum in products like that, perfumes, massage oils, all that kind of stuff. And then we used it a lot, of course, in sports
Mm.
massages.
Mm.
And then also, though, using the water from it, because as we know, essential oils are steam distilled. And when you distill the plant, you get
Mhm.
the essential oil, but you also get the water off of it, which is called a hydrosol or floral water, right?
Mhm.
So we had Helichrysum, a floral water, and we were using that because you can use that on babies. And we were using that for shock and trauma a lot with babies. Maybe they'd had a difficult birth, or, you know, when your toddlers are learning to walk and they
Mhm.
fall and they bump their heads. And our little Zoe, she would go right to the kitchen cupboard and she'd say, Helichrysum, Helichrysum, you know? She was just born into it. I mean, truly. And when we would go to the perfume congress in Gras,
Mhm.
she would always go with us, right? And she would sit with the perfumers and smell the
So
oils, and they
cute.
loved it. They're like, you know, we've got a kid that loves
Right.
this stuff. So it's been such a wonderful experience. And essential oils, you know, they come from roots like vetiver, which is very grounding for us.
Mhm.
Flowers, as we were just saying, jasmine and helichrysum and rose, and neroli, the
Mhm.
orange blossom.
Right. I love the smell of that.
Oh, isn't that just beautiful? Orange blossom.
What do you,
Uh,
when you think about all of those, like, just for a general, for background, for your steamer, your cool steamer, aromatherapy, what's a good combo that you find?
oh, you mean like for, well,
Like three or a few you put together that's just like,
okay, kind of an overall good, make you
right.
feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I really love neroli, as I was saying, orange blossom.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea that the orange has three different essential oils coming from it. You have it from the peel, which is
Uh-huh.
orange, you know,
Right.
bitter orange. And then you also have petitgrain, which comes from the branches.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the flower that comes from the neroli, which comes from the flower. So what I like to do is I like to put that together in a diffuser.
Uh-huh.
And that way I get all aspects of the orange tree. I get the sweetness of it. I get the green aspect from the branches. And then I get this flowery aspect too. And all of those are good for anxiety, stress. And they've done studies with women with neroli, and they had high blood pressure, these women did. And they were going to, and what they did is they just put the neroli on a swatch of material, had them sit by it in the evening when they got home for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw how it reduced some women's blood pressure, not all of them,
Mm-hmm.
but it did reduce their stress and tension. And they found themselves enjoying themselves more, really doing a lot more with their families and you know, friends, getting out more. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of, it let them loose.
That's
Release
so
them.
good, especially everybody's so like with this pandemic, I mean, having been so cooped up and just everybody has some kind of stress or something they're going through, like, and just like their work and integrating it and tired of Zoom.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I just did a 3-day class on emotional healing with essential oils and
Mm-hmm.
flower essences, and you know, we by the third day we were all like zoomed out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
And essential oils, that's what's so great about them is, you know, they work on all levels,
Mhm.
emotional, mental, spiritual, physical.
Mhm.
And working on our energy field is so important because as we're sitting here on Zoom and on our computers, our energy field is, you know, has some challenge. We're working, trying to keep our energy field strong all the time.
Mhm.
And not being able to connect with other people, you know, and get those nice hugs from your friends and family members. That also has something to do with it because when you put two people's energy together, the energy gets bigger.
Right.
And when we're alone, that's not so much fun, right? And we can use essential oils to help keep that energy field built and strong.
You know, I like during the pandemic and sometime before it, I did substitute teaching for LAUSD. And I'd
Mhm.
always done the City of Angels where it was one-on-one. But
Oh.
anyhow, they brought me in to do Zoom. And so I was getting out all these big classes. And it was so terrible for the kids because, you know, when you're talking, they didn't want to talk over each other and they didn't know how. So like you're saying, how it's spontaneous when the kids are in a classroom and together, it was so stilted, you know? Yeah.
Mhm. I can totally see how it would be that way.
Mhm.
You're right, because they don't, you know, they don't know that they can raise their hand on the
Mhm.
panel. You
Mhm.
know, how do I do all this? You know,
Right.
I'm used to this and you know, speaking and listening. And then a lot of it's when things are like that, when we're together with others, then like you said, it can be more spontaneous too. And we
Mhm.
might be able to play off someone else's question in the class. Like
Mhm.
they might have asked this question and then oh yeah, because I'm sitting closer to them, I get it, you
And
know.
you get their energy, you know what I mean?
You
Like,
get their energy. Exactly. You pick up on all what's going on where we're zooming. It's different. It
so
totally is
now with
different.
this neroli, you were talking about three different parts.
Yes.
Is it three different oils
Different
or?
essential oils, yes. So
Oh, so
you would
it's
have
three different oil. Okay.
three different essential oils that are coming from the orange tree. So you have the orange itself that comes from the peel.
Okay.
You have petitgrain, which comes from the branches of the
Mhm.
orange tree. And
Mhm.
then you have the flower, which is the neroli
I
essential oil.
see.
And so what it does is you're getting all parts of the tree. And what you do is you put it in your diffuser.
Mhm.
You would do, say, for example, your diffuser takes 25 drops of each one. You
Mhm.
would put, neroli is very expensive. So you would put like possibly, you know, 10 drops of orange.
Mhm.
And then you could do like 6 drops or so of petitgrain. And then the rest, so that's 16. So, you know, the rest would be what, nine
Mhm.
neroli, for
Mhm.
example. And you would have this beautiful, sweet, yet green aspect. And then the flowers coming out of that.
Wow, that's so nice. Yeah.
Oh,
Sounds
it's
great.
beautiful for stress and tension. It's just a wonderful combination to use.
Mhm.
And, you know, as we were talking about my house and the kidneys, you know, the
Mhm.
kidney stone guy, that was an interesting experience with him because right now, as we know, we're in the time of the kidney in traditional Chinese medicine, kidney bladder. We're just almost out of it because we're in
Mhm.
winter, right?
Mhm.
And this is your expertise.
I was so amazed you're teaching essential oils in Chinese medicine. Whoa.
Well, it's wonderful because I ended up going to China and teaching aromatherapy there.
Whoa. That's
Yeah.
great.
So moving to France, what it did is as when I had I had an organic skincare company
Mhm.
there. It wasn't organic at first when I got there. It was natural skincare. And then we changed everything into organic,
Mhm.
which took me 7 years because it was 120 products. But we did it. And what
There's so
happened?
much corruption in that field too,
Yes,
of really
yes.
getting organic. Yeah.
And this is something we were growing organic essential oils, hydrosols. My husband had one of the largest organic essential oil companies in Europe.
Mm.
He recently retired from that,
Mhm.
and so now he's retired. However, he still keeps his finger in
What
it
was the name
because
of that
it
company?
was called Gojamal. It still exists,
How do you
and
spell that?
Golgemma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they sell to, cosmetic companies, pharmaceutical companies, all of that. And he still keeps his finger though in the pie because he
Yeah.
has friends in it, and they ask him to do consulting and things like that for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been such an interesting experience. Because of that, we were able to travel and go in many different places
Mm-hmm.
where they were growing organic, and especially Madagascar. And that's what my husband was always saying, is he was always, checking every time he got a sample, checking for all the things to make sure that it truly was what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's important, is that when you're working with a supplier, make sure you get your certificate of analysis from your
Mm-hmm.
supplier. Make sure that you do your organoleptic testing, which is when the product, they send you a sample, you smell it, you look at the color of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're also looking at, the viscosity of it. How is it on my skin?
Mm-hmm.
Is it oily? Is it really, is it got something
Right.
else in it?
Mm-hmm.
And then
An
also,
extender.
yes, an extender. And my husband also, he and his business partner were always tasting them. We're
Mm-hmm.
always tasting them,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
And they're
And
still alive.
yeah, tasting them, just to, because we needed, it was interesting. He could smell something, and then he'd hand it to me. And we had a game between each other about this.
Mm-hmm.
He'd come home and he'd say, okay, Lorrie, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
And it was always the deal between jasmine and ylang ylang, because they have certain chemical constituents in them that are the same.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can get it mixed up
Mm-hmm.
if you're not really paying attention well, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can get it mixed up. So he was always, and he, put paper on the outside of it to make sure
Is jasmine less expensive?
no, ylang ylang is less
Oh,
expensive
okay.
than
That's
jasmine.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was always fun. We always did stuff like that with each other,
Mm-hmm.
But it trains your nose. And during this COVID situation, so many people lost their sense of smell.
Mm-hmm.
So we started using rosemary with our clients who lost their sense of smell. And I got COVID. My daughter did too. We
Mm-hmm.
both lost our sense of smell and taste. And we started doing inhalations with rosemary, and then also reprogramming our brain. When we sit down to eat something, we would smell rosemary before we ate. And then if I started like eating a carrot, I'd say, okay, this carrot, of course it's orange, but it's sweet. It has a dirt kind of aspect to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really reprogramming our brain so we could get all that information back into this emotional center of our brain, because essential oils go to that part of your brain.
This is so interesting. I haven't heard any of this anywhere
Oh, really?
about the rosemary, about doing that. And I'm so on all of that stuff, like going, and nobody's like really talking about that. And
Well,
rosemary is so common. I mean, I have it because they say you could think better with it. So I just put in a branch by my computer and just smell it just for that. But there's so much more.
yes, because rosemary works on that part of your brain. It works on your 5 senses.
Oh, okay.
So this is the reason why we chose to use rosemary. And like I said, we were doing inhalations, steam inhalations with it too. We also then were, sniffing it out of the bottle.
Okay.
And then reprogramming our brain. Well, we got all of our sense of taste and smell back. And, that was the most difficult thing for us, my daughter and I, was to lose. Well, my other daughter too, because then she got it later, a few weeks later. And we all were like, oh my gosh, how horrible. I mean, I was happy I could smell garbage, Carol.
But I mean, this is your field is like smelling is so important.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've got to be able to know the difference between, orange and lemon.
Right. Oh my. Wow.
So that was quite a interesting experience. And then what we did was we did a master class on viruses.
Mhm.
So we taught people then about how they could use rosemary and different essential oils to help them when they had a virus like this. And
So rosemary would be a good one too for the diffuser.
yes, rosemary in your
If you
diffuser.
have for this, I mean, it would even be good in the schoolrooms, actually. Yeah.
Yes, as long as people don't have sensitivities to certain chemical constituents in the essential oils.
Mhm.
Because some people have like ADD people, you think that would, lavender would calm them down,
Mhm.
but it's opposite. A lot of times it could be that peppermint calms them down more than lavender, for example.
Uh-huh.
So when we have so many different people in a classroom with learning challenges, it's almost better that they have individual things for them, because we could set off someone, for example, if they had autism, we could set them off with a certain smell, because
Is it lavender does that to them too?
no, I've never seen that, but we don't know, because each
Right.
person's when you're on the spectrum of each one of these different things, you don't know what thing will set them off,
Because
or
there's so
help
many
them.
classes. I mean, now at LAUSD, there's 1 or 2 classes just of autistic children. And
Mhm.
so it would be, the essential oil thing would be interesting there. I know
Yes.
on one of the, I was going to say vid chats, I guess these are vid chats. So we did labyrinths. And so way back, because of dowsing and all of that, like walking labyrinths, they found for ADD kids, regroups, the
Mhm.
synapses, reprograms. And so there's so many of these, and hospitals are putting in labyrinths for that. So when you were saying that, I keep hearing about hospitals using lavender. So it isn't across the board good then.
No, not necessarily. I mean, not everybody is going to receive it the same. Not everyone's sense of smell is the same. Your sensitivity, everyone's different.
Mhm.
Across the board, in general public, the people like lavender, but when you start really dialing it down and like having classes and things, you see the difference, and you see people who have allergies to essential oils.
Mhm.
And in Europe, we have 26 allergens when you make a product, a skincare product, and if you have essential oils in it or a fragrance in it,
Mhm.
you have to calculate your allergens in the product, and then you have to write it at the end, if at the end, showing people.
Yeah.
And lavender, of course, has one of those allergens in it called linalool, which is also what helps calm you down. But some people are allergic to it, just like some people are allergic to peanuts or
Right.
MSG or,
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and I've had people come in classes that were allergic to lavender or were allergic to certain things. And then I always ask in the beginning of the class,
Mhm.
and then those people went outside if we pass those oils around,
Mhm.
in the
Mhm.
class. So
So,
yeah,
so could you like work through it? Have you worked through it so that they aren't allergic to it at all, or is it just kind of stay that way?
well, I think a lot of times allergies, as we know, they can be worked through with
Mhm.
certain people can work through them. Um,
Mhm.
it depends on the person, and if they want to try to work through those. I used to be allergic to cats, but now I have a cat and I'm fine, with cats.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think it's a lot to do with your liver, uh, of course, a lot to do with your gut. And that's another exciting thing about orange. Oh yeah, I got to tell you this one.
Well, okay, this is all new info. We're here.
is that we have some recent research on essential oils like orange. And
Mhm.
orange contains a chemical constituent called limonene. And they found that there's an olfactory receptor in the large intestine. And I think it's, I can't quote me on this, but I think it's olfactory receptor 16.
Okay.
But what it does is when you use orange, for example, orange essential oil,
Mhm.
it helps keep the good bacteria in your gut, your lactobacillus.
Well, so diffusing this is like got so many different levels.
Levels. Exactly, exactly. So you're not only helping your stress and tension, you're really connecting your brain and your gut, right?
Mhm.
With these essential oils. And this is also another reason why it works so well with viruses and bacteria and these kinds of things, because we know essential oils are the one thing that can penetrate a virus cell.
I didn't know that.
Yes. And so this is why they're so important now with all this going on, and how they can be of service to all of us when we have a cold, a flu, any kind of virus that we're picking up.
Now, this is
So
any essential oil, or is it?
there's certain ones, like we know Raven Sarah is very antiviral and is helpful. You have cinnamon and clove and savory and oregano and thyme. They're
Some
all,
really common ones, like the common
yes,
herbs you could be growing in your garden.
yes, you could, yes, these kinds of things. And they have chemical constituents in them, like they're called phenols. And those are very, and if you think about that family,
Mm-hmm.
they're very hot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they get in, they kill bacteria, they can help kill viruses. They're antiseptic. I mean, you don't want to diffuse cinnamon or thyme or clove around. It's just too hot.
But this might be why they became so prevalent worldwide in cooking.
Yes. Yes.
I always wonder why certain ones are so just everywhere.
Well, yeah, because what they were doing is a long time ago on, in between China and Afghanistan, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the what's that trail called there? The not the spice.
The pass.
Yeah, is it the Spice Trail?
Khyber Pass. Khyber Pass.
I think it's something like that. And
I remember Buckminster Fuller saying it was the most important pass in the world. And then I always thought about Afghanistan, like all that was happening, and I never knew why. But was it because of product?
At that time, yes, everything was coming through there. All your spices were coming through there, see?
Mm-hmm.
And what people were finding was, like you were saying, how they put them in food. I mean, look how we started using clove in pork to stop the parasites, the bacteria, all these things.
I didn't know that's why they use clove in pork.
Yeah.
Because I'm a vegetarian, so I never thought about it.
Yeah, you never thought about pork. Yes.
But wow.
So there's a lot of reasons why they were using certain plants in foods to stop the bacteria or the parasites or the worms or whatever, or just from it getting bad, right?
So do you think this was all through experimentation, or how did to get this knowledge? I mean, just the concept of the clove and the pork, and it's always so amazing to me how that evolved.
I know. And, it's interesting. If you look at the Materia Medica and how really this all evolved with plants was thousands of years ago, when they were fighting in wars, you always had a doctor with the army. So the doctor was going out and he was searching for plants that were by the battlefields, so he could use things there. And what they did is they started cataloging all this information. Like that's why we know yarrow, which is the botanical name, is called Achilles millefolium, because it comes from, they say, it comes from when Achilles, when he hurt his Achilles and it was bleeding, and they used yarrow, and it stopped the bleeding. So there's all these kinds of folklore type history things behind our plant use. And then as we see through time, we evolved more and more and more. And they started seeing where they could heat up the plant and then get the oil out of it. And that's, and it first started off with just getting the water out of the plant and using the water, to put in our food or to drink. And, if you look in research now in Iran and those areas, that's really where most of this started. And they're still to this day using water from distillation in their drinks for emotional challenges.
Iran has a lot of really interest. I mean, their architectural knowledge and their water and their preservation. It really amazing.
It's amazing, and their medicine. See, this all came down through all that, and so it's very, very interesting. And also the Chinese too. You know, the Chinese
and the Indian
and the Indians. Yes, you know, all Asia up there. I mean, in the East, it just all trickled down to us in the West, right? So it's a very interesting, the history of essential oils and how they really came about through all of that, through really herbalism is how it started.
I had an interview like a few months ago with Don Paris, who's a big radionics person who lives in Bali. And he's like the guy with the SE5 and everything. Anyhow, they heard about him because he's done like with every master in India, gone in with all the herbs and all of this on the radionic level. And so they found that all these elders in China were dying with knowledge that nobody was getting from them about herbal combinations and things. So he went in for, I think he was almost there a year, and they brought in all these different people, interviewed him, and then put the archetypes in the radionic machines of these herbs to preserve it. So, you know, I mean, like you're saying, a lot of this, there was so much wisdom that can just disappear.
Yes, it really can. And, you know, that's the reason why I decided to stop the cosmetic company, this organic skincare company. First of all, I burned out because I was running a company and with employees and everything. And then I was flying to China, going to Spain, you know, going to Paris, whatever. I mean, you know, and it was a lot, and having a small child at the same time. So it was really a lot on me. And so I stopped and decided, you know, and a company that hired me in 1998 rehired me after I stopped that company to be their consultant again. Can you imagine? 20 years later, they rehire me. And so what it did is it just I was supposed to ignite their line again of products. So I did a presentation, and then that's when I rewrote my book too.
Oh, here, put it up.
Okay.
What's the name of it?
It's called Common Sense, A Practical Guide to Aromatherapy.
Nice.
Yeah. And so it just ignited that. And all of a sudden I had to have an editor. I had to have someone who was in marketing. And I had 3 ladies around me that had been friends of mine for a couple of them for 10 years. And one I had met at an herb class in France. And I had no idea that she had been a professor in London teaching teachers how to teach children with learning challenges. And that she had written, you know, a textbook that's still used and all this. So she became my editor. And it just worked out perfect. So I got it. I had a business, right?
What was the name of your skincare line?
Solaroma, Solaroma. Solaroma. Yes. There still exists. Pharmacists bought the company, and they are now located in Carcassonne, which I said is 45 minutes from. And so, yes, they're still selling essential oils. They're still selling some of the products, not all of the products, but some of the products. They still have some of the perfumes and the bath gels, shampoos, body massage oils. What else do they still have? And facial creams, really nice facial creams. So yeah, they still exist. And I think they're close to 50 years old now, the company.
Some of these, like that rose one from Germany.
Begins with it doesn't begin with an H. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, when you read about the history on that, he was such a scientist, and the levels they went into, and a Steiner person. I mean, that's a really, some of these skincare lines, you know.
Oh yeah, Dr. Hoschka. isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
because that's what's so interesting too, when you really skincare, organic skincare in Europe is on a whole nother level than in the United States.
Mhm. Most things are.
You know,
I
when,
mean,
when
food also.
yeah, when I look at our situation in the United States, I can't buy it.
Mhm.
I've got to buy, and I know I'm sure there's some great ones and I just haven't seen them.
Right.
But I always have to buy my stuff from there. You know, it's
Well,
just the
so
way it
many of
is.
these have proven records too. I mean, through, a
Yes.
long time, they just aren't
Hmm.
quickly on the market.
Right. And my husband, one of his close friends, was one of the first people in Dr. Hoshka's company.
Oh.
So
Mhm.
that's too, there's always all these connections
Mhm.
around us and with people. And that's what's fun too, is all the wonderful relationships that we have and have developed through all of this. And the rose has been really connected because of, in our area where we live, lots of people come because that was supposedly where Mary Magdalene came to.
Oh.
And so the rose is very connected to that. And of course,
Mhm.
Gross was known for the roses
Mhm.
and jasmine at one
Mhm.
time. They had huge places where, they had the rooms were filled with roses. Not as much now. There's still the May rose is still there. But that was another connection for me, being there, being in France. And so I did a festival of roses. I did it for 8 years.
Mm.
And at the end, we had people coming from Italy and all over to it.
Mhm.
And that was a wonderful experience too, to be able to connect people into the plants, the
Mhm.
essential oil, the water of it. Then, like we were just saying, about how it's in the food. And
Mhm.
so even our food that we served at the festival was, we had rose petals in our salad.
Mhm.
It was just, yeah, it was,
I
I mean,
love rose petal jam. It's one of my favorites from
yes,
the farmer's market.
yes. And we had a market and everybody sold something that had to do with roses. And we had rose jam, rose syrup.
So the
Oh,
the
much fun.
thing, it's like when you're just the words rose is so generic. So there has to be like all different essential
Oh,
oils of rose, right?
yes, there is. The main one though that you use for the rose essential oil is Rosa damascena. And
Mhm.
that usually comes from Turkey. It usually comes from Bulgaria.
Oh, that's
Bulgaria.
Bulgarian rose?
Yes, Bulgarian rose usually is that botanical name.
I
And
see.
so
That's
is
what
the
I've heard.
Turkish one too. Yes.
Oh,
So
okay.
those are the two places, that they usually you're getting your roses from. We had a small rose area that we were only doing it for the water. It
Mhm.
takes 3 tons of rose petals to make 1 kilo of rose.
Whoa.
That's why it's so expensive.
Oh, you can't even imagine that.
Yeah. And that's why, we go out and pick and we get 25 kilos, or 25 to 50 kilos of rose petals. And,
Yeah.
we'd come out with, some liters of, 25 liters of rose water or something. I mean, we might have got, a half a meal of rose oil. It
Oh, these
wasn't,
poor roses. I mean, whoa. What color are Bulgarian roses? All different colors, or
no,
is this type of
they're
rose?
more of a pink color,
Mhm.
it's a pink color. They're really beautiful.
Okay.
In fact, I have a client who is Bulgarian, and his mother runs the rose campaign. I mean, that's what she does. She has the rose fields, does the rose essential oil, and the whole thing.
Mm.
And they keep saying, Lorrie, you've got to come. And I go, I know, but the last 2 years we've had the pandemic.
And where is this? In Bulgaria
This is
or
in
Turkey?
Bulgaria.
Oh,
Yes,
Bulgaria.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope maybe this year I can go, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Since all this has happened.
So it seems like just essential oils have exploded on the market.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
When we first, when we first were doing aromatherapy, people like my son said, He said, you know, Mom, everyone, because we wore Birkenstocks, we milked our goats, we ate organic foods, and you did essential oils. Everyone thought we were hippies and weirdos, you know?
Right.
And then as time went on, and even when I first met my husband in 1998 in France, it was interesting because they were a smaller company, and essential oils were just really starting to come out 1995, 1996 in the US, really, you know, because in Europe, it was going more. In France, it's been going for a very, very long time. In England too, in the UK, it had always been growing there. And it's finally started to really start growing in the US in the early 90s. And it started, you know, starting to explode. But we were aromatherapists. We were a small piece of pie in that big pie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was mostly flavoring, because, you know, essential oils are used in flavoring every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Perfumery,
Mm-hmm.
grass and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then in pharmaceutical products too, because essential oils, they use essential oils to push medicines into the skin. Because they penetrate the skin. So they use them for that. And then of course they were using them for,
is that
you know,
in Europe? Is that worldwide?
yes. And also they use them for wound care, you know, they were using a lot of wound care and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what happened though. All of a sudden it started to really grow.
Mm-hmm.
And aromatherapy now is some of the biggest players in essential oils.
I remember way back there, John Young Living.
Yes.
He kind of had the corner on the market, it seemed, for a long time.
Yes, they did. And he really got it going in multi-level marketing, you know, in that part. And what it did is it really spread it. It really spread it. And then other companies came in after that and also became competitors against that company in multi-level marketing. And they really grew too. And they made it really even bigger. And they even now have, you know, offices in different countries where they're doing their own distillation and extraction. So it just really took off. The thing is when something grows like that, then what you have to look at is you've got to look at the quality of the essential oils, because there's only so many essential oils in the world. You've got to look at the quality of things. You've also got to understand the language, because they say, well, my essential oils are therapeutic grade. There's no such thing. We don't have grades in essential oils. There's no legal spiegel on that. There's no confirmation on, you know, therapeutic grade essential oils. That's a way to market your product, for you to say, I have a different product, to make a differentiation.
Well, is there organic?
Yes, we have organic certification. And that's another interesting thing, is behind our house in Castillo, there we had it had been where the Archbishop had lived there before. And the monks had made bread, and they had this stone building where they made their bread. And before we moved there, the guy who lived there before, he had made that his office. And he had some friends come over, and in France at that time, you had it doesn't mean anything in English. You had an organic certification that was called Nature's Progress, and there still exists.
Okay.
But they got together, these guys back there in this bread house.
Were they making bread while you were there?
No, that was long done. That was centuries ago, you know.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And
how perfectly she's situated.
They decided to start a new organic certification, and they called it EcoCert. Well, EcoCert now is all over the world. And our neighbor was the master controller for EcoCert, and he went to China and set up their office in China. He went to South America, set up their office in South America. He's been all over the world setting up organic certification offices for the different countries.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's interesting about it. You know, the one in Madagascar, I mean, all over. So if you follow the rules of EcoCert,
Mm-hmm.
because they come in, and what they do is every year for essential oils, hydrosols, carrier oils, they come in and they audit you. They make sure you have all your certificates of your organic certificates from all your suppliers. They come and they check all your supplies to make sure that you are not off 100 mil. Okay.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's very good. So they do all that.
Are they in the United States too?
Yeah, what they do is they have an agreement with our NOP, which is, you know, our organic certification here in the United States, North American Organic, you know, program. And they have contracts between them. So if somebody wants certification for NOP in Europe, EcoCert does the audit. And if somebody wants an EcoCert certification here in the United States, then NOP does the audit for them. And that's how they've worked it out. So then if you are a skincare company and you want to be organic, or if you want to have clothes, you know, because you can sell organic clothes, they have certification in that. They have certification, foods, of course, food, because food essential oils, those are all kind of put together. And then the essential oils, though, but if you want to do skincare, you're audited twice a year. It's a lot of work.
Wow. Yeah.
And you have 2 audits. So that means, you know, you're constantly watching your stock. You're constantly doing audits on your own self. And, you know, people will say, well, you know, I'm organic. And I always say, well, you know, where's your certificate? Well, I do everything organic. I'm like, you know, I'm sorry, but you can say all what you want to say that you're organic, and maybe you are. And I hope you are. However, if you don't have somebody who comes in independently and watches and sees what you're doing, you're going to make a mess up somewhere. You just are. You're not going to be as hard on yourself as someone else is who comes in, who's independent. So we always kept we had 3 audits a year.
It's just like,
you get done with
you're
one.
always working towards the audit.
You were, and that makes it hard, because if you're a small company like I was, it makes it very difficult to do marketing then, because you're always working for this audit, you know. Oh yeah, you're clean and green, right? But does anybody know about you?
Oh, you know, I was going to ask you, one of my favorites is Thieves Oil. And if that's true, or if that's just the whole thing that it was used during the Black Plague, or if that's just a story.
Well, you know, in herbalism, there's a story about it. There is a story about that in herbalism.
Oh, okay.
And so that's where that came from. That whole story came from there. So there is that story about the thieves, and then how, you know, about the plague and all that.
And the rats. And
and the rats caused it, didn't they?
Yeah.
So yes, there is that story, and that was smart marketing, right?
Right. No, I just didn't know whether it was a marketing. You just don't never know. So
yeah. So that was really a smart marketing move there to call that, and everybody now all over the world knows that product. They really do, you know.
And I was on Amazon, and other people are now selling it, kind of trying to get a similar name.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, I can imagine, because see, people put in thieves, and if they put thief or some other kind of way,
and it's just common herbs, you know, essential oils. Yeah,
and then they go in there and they find it, and well, maybe I'll buy this one instead of that one. You know, really, what's the difference? And like you're saying, how can you tell the difference? Well, really, to really know essential oils is you need to be smelling them, you know, and working with them. And when you get an essential oil, grab it, do the organic Lipti testing, and also check the botanical name. You've got to make sure that the botanical name and the country of origin match up. You know, you're not going to buy lavender from Sri Lanka. And it's just like the other day, one of my
Oh, I
students,
see the word lavender. It would have, yeah. You have to have the
botanical
language
name.
of the
Yes,
country.
lavandula angustifolia, you know,
Mhm.
for your lavender, for lavender fine. But if you're going to be using, you know, people, they think of France and the big, tall lavender. Okay, that's not lavender, that's lavandine. That's a hybrid of lavandula angustifolia and lavandula latifolia.
Yeah.
That's the mama and the papa, and it makes lavandine. And that's why it makes more oil. That's why it's a bigger plant. It's taller. It you know, grosses more essential oil out of that plant.
I
So,
saw that name. I wondered what that was. Because
yeah,
it smells like lavender.
yes. The difference that it makes is that it's a lot more like the, let's say the mother is lavandula latifolia, which is what we call in common name spike lavender, right?
Okay.
It has more phenol, 1.8 phenol. It has more of that in it, lavandine. So it's more heady, you know, it's got more. So when you sniff it, you have more of a heady effect.
Oh, okay.
And it also works more on your respiratory system too. Because
so is it good for sinuses then?
Yes, it can be good for
That's
sinuses.
my big problem at the moment.
Yeah, it's really good for, it can be really nice for sinuses. And lavandine is more inexpensive because you can get a bigger supply of it. You know, it's very normal. The market goes with your supply and demand.
Right.
And that's another thing is, you know, when you get all these people using all these oils all the time, after a while, certain ones you can't get for a while because the supply is gone, right?
Well, I always like David Crow had talked about, like in Africa, like families have like a frankincense tree where they for eons have used it, like, but you know what I mean? So it seems like it's such a limited supply.
Yes, and that's a good, it's interesting that you bring that up. I was in Egypt and I was at an organic farm in Egypt. And they were doing the neroli, the orange blossom harvest. And they were the people who were doing the co-op there to bring in this organic orange blossoms. And like you said, one little family and everybody had their pile. And it was like we were in heaven, in neroli heaven. I mean, we were just inundated with the smell of neroli, you know, I mean, because there was just piles of blossoms everywhere. And each farm or each little family had their little pile. And one little pile was this big, Carol.
Wow.
And they had their number, you know, from there that went to how much they weighed it and all that, because then what they would do is they paid them so much for their weight of their orange blossoms. And we had one little pile like this. It was so cute. One little family's pile.
So I just like, when I see that, and how do they plant new frankincense trees? But it seems like they take centuries to grow.
Well, this is a problem. Frankincense, you know, is really has been endangered, along with sandalwood, ajuwan, I think also. Oh, and of course we had rosewood. That has been endangered for quite a while. Rosewood has.
Why is that now?
Well, they overused. They just did too much. You know, that was down in Brazil, and they overdid it there with it.
Like fishing.
So you can't, you know, you can't keep doing that all the time. And then, and it's, so there's problems like that, you know, that we have. Of course, humans are like that, right? We want more,
especially in this society, like, you know, consumers. So
we're such consumers. We really are. And I think sometimes though, people buy a bottle of essential oil and they think, oh, and they'll buy all these, and then they don't end up doing a lot with them either. And I think that's something that people have to realize is you need to check. If you bought lemon a year ago and you didn't use it, you need to check it, because lemon, orange, bergamot, those are very high in terpenes, and those are your top notes when you make perfume, right? And they escape very quickly. So they oxidize very fast. So a year to 18 months, your orange or your lemon or your bergamot or your lime, they'll start oxidizing. So if it starts smelling like some old orange or old lemon, you know, don't use it. It's the
So
same
they
with
don't have expiration dates.
Well, normally you should be able to see the lot number on the bottom of your bottle. And then you should be able to go to your information with the company that you bought it from, and they should be able to tell you when they, you know, what is their expiration date? Is their expiration date on that product 18 months? With essential oils, besides citruses, our expiration date was always 3 years.
No, that's good to know.
Yeah, that's what we always did. And when you make products, you know, for your stability, you have to know what are your expirations on your product that you're putting in, whether it's a carrier oil, extract, essential oil, whatever you're developing. You've got to know that, because then they're tested. They're tested for stability, products like that. They're also tested for bacteria to see how fast a bacteria, if they have water in them, how fast the bacteria will grow in that product. And then also, you also have to understand really, you know, how much essential oil or perfume I put in that product. And there's rules you have to follow for that to make sure then when people apply it to their skin, you have to do testing in Europe, skin patch testing for creams. You've got to do an ocular test, like for your shampoos and bath gels, you know, so in case people get in their eyes, you have to do an ocular test for that. You know, there's a lot. And then your perfume too, you have to do a patch skin test for that when you develop perfumes. There's a lot to all of this. And it's quite it's a good experience. It was a wonderful experience learning to do all these things. But after I burned out, I didn't want to look at a label for like 2 years.
but your knowledge on all of this is really amazing. I mean, it's just wide.
Yeah, it really,
you've been in it for so long in different countries, so you've experienced it.
Yes, and that was what was really great is, you know, I was just really an aromatherapist before when I was in the United States, and I did natural health and I did consultations, iridology, all that stuff. But then when I went to France, it really opened me up to development, research, you know, all these different learning rules and regulations, how to follow rules and regulations, the reasons why, we're doing all these different things, and how to then within all that framework, make something that really works. And that was the challenge. That was what was so fun about it is, okay, because I would have interns come in France. You can have interns come for 6 months, and I would have interns come from different universities getting their master's degree in chemistry with an option in cosmetics, which for us is skincare. They would come to my laboratory for 6 months, and we would work together. And so say we were developing a massage oil for sports, to cool you down or to warm you up. I would have the massage table there in our office, and I would say, okay, we have to make sure, we want to see how this works. And so we would, I'd have a student get on there, and we'd give a massage, and we'd say, how does that feel? And then have everybody smelling it. You're constantly having meetings, smelling the stuff, feeling it, seeing how it, feels on your skin. Is it oily? Does it penetrate? How is it? Because you've got to know if it's a product that, you're putting on your face and you kiss somebody, how's that going to taste?
And that you're not toxic. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So there was all these really interesting things to do. It's very, very fun.
Well, it's been an hour. I can't believe
Oh
it.
my gosh, I can't believe it either. We could talk forever, Carol.
I know, and we do. But the thing is, you want to tell a little bit about your school?
Oh, yes, yes. Well, what's so great about having the school is that I can give this experience. And it's called Lorrie Hargis International School of Aromatherapy.
Okay.
So we have 3 levels in the school. So if you want to start off and just learn about aromatherapy, we have level 1, and you're going to learn about 20 essential oils. You're going to learn how those affect the anatomy of the body. You're going to learn the history. You're going to learn how to use them. And you'll also start with case studies, people, using them on different people. And then we go into level 2 where it gets more advanced, and you're really going deep into the chemistry and the anatomy. And we're also teaching you how to become a registered aromatherapist, which is what we want everyone to be, because we want people to have, to get continuing education units. That way they can, stay on top of aromatherapy, because it changes all the time. We get new things, new research, new stuff. And so then you can go into clinical aromatherapy, where we have tracks, emotional healing. We've got flower essences and essential oils. We've got reflexology and essential oils in the clinical setting. And so it's approved by the NAHA. So you can come out either as a level 1, level 2, level 3 student. You really understand essential oils. And I've got to have a brag real quick here is our school are doing such great case studies that our students in the last 5 Aromatic in Action journal, which is done by the Alliance of International Aromatherapists. Our students have all their case studies have been in the last 5 editions. Nice, really, really nice. And their research papers too. So they are becoming published authors. They're seen by their peers as, very high level aromatherapist. They do such a beautiful job with their clients. They are seeing their clients holistically. They're seeing them because they all have a class in emotional healing. Everybody gets that when they come into our program, because we feel that they need to be balanced as aromatherapist to help other people. So that's
how
really
long does this take?
Okay, so for a level 1 student, it's 6 months. For a level 2, it's a year, which is level 1 and level 2 together. Okay. And for level 1, level 2, and level 3, which is all 3 levels, it's 18 months. Okay. Yeah.
And this is all online?
It's online. You get a group coaching call with me every other week. And we have group chats too, every 3 weeks of the month on Tuesdays, every Tuesday. So, and you get an individual coaching call with me, a health assessment with me too. And then you get a curriculum call with my curriculum manager, Sue. You get a marketing also call with my marketing manager, Ruth, to help you market your company. And so it's a real balanced program and a very high level program.
This was great. Wow. There was so much good information here.
I hope not too much.
No, it's like, have to watch it again. So yeah. Thank you, Lorrie. This was so
thank you so much, Carol. I really appreciate this.
From Bakersfield to the fields and all of the school, it's fabulous.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. See you at the next one.
Bye. Thank you so much, Carol. I really appreciate it.